Hey guys, welcome back to the Retro Sports Gamer channel. I'm Mort. I have my own channel, Tecmo 101. This is a part of videos I put on the RSG channel so that you guys know some more of the Tecmo knowledge we have available on the Tecmo 101 channel. Last time we went over the elite defensive back 1 position and a little bit of the LB1 position, which is a lot of the teams in Tecmo. Now, there are not as many teams that have an elite defensive back 2, which is players best exemplified by Gilbert at the bottom cornerback. Also, at the LB4 position, best exemplified, for example, by Kevin Green. There aren't too many teams of these. In fact, I've listed the teams before because there's so few of them. For DB2, there's New England, San Diego, Washington, Minnesota. Dallas to a little bit of a degree, but Dallas is pretty similar to Washington with how the quarterbacks work out. But these are the main. New Orleans is another team, but he's not as good. You got Robert Massey. But when you're talking about the elite guys that you've got to worry about, these are the ones I've decided to list. So first, in general, we'll start with DB2. In general, when you go against defensive back 2, you basically want to go with any sweep play to the bottom of the field. This play, let's see, other plays that go at them. Maybe this play is incredible for it. Like, there's not really anything can really work in here. It's not really set up for it. But basically, all of a sudden, sweeps that are open to other things are open. Because basically, or like this one, this was a great play against it as well. Because basically you're running the football. Most of the best plays are sweeps to the bottom of the field, and you're basically just picking them out. Or other plays where there's a natural blocker on that position. So now here's the issue though. A lot of these teams, you have to account for the player and you have to account for another player. Let's start with San Diego. And San Diego is one of the best examples. I can run all my plays at Gilbert, but I can't forget about Leslie O'Neal. So what that means is if I go with this play, well, I'm leaving myself wide open to Leslie O'Neal. So I may not want to use this. So what I might want to do against this team is instead have one play for each of them. And then have some options on the other plays for what I want to do. Like, for example, this would be pretty effective, and it would make some interesting choices. And then, or even if you did it like this. So now what I'm doing here is what I'm saying to this guy is, when I do the pro form play, I want you to be O'Neal so I can pass the ball. But when I do the run and shoot plays, I have plays designed for each player. All right, that was San Diego. New England. Now, New England is the one team where they do have an LB1, and he's okay. But if you're like the Colts or Seahawks, this is a team you might want to go overboard and say, you know what? Since this is your best player, let's go. Let's try to take him out of the game. Let's do this play. Let's do this play. Let's go 2 running backs and just try to take you out of the game right here. Throw in a play action here. Throw in this play here. And basically, I'm just trying to say, hey, look, I'm going to try to take you out of the game and then open up my passing game. So you could possibly use this against the Patriots because they don't got too much defensively, but at the same time, don't forget about Maurice Hurst, who's decent and who has some interception ability and some containability. But I would recommend that. Try to take out in that situation. Washington, though, is a team where it's like you've definitely got to account for Darrell Green. And you can't assume Mayhew is going to be used more than Darrell Green because Darrell Green's one of the fastest players in the game. Martin Mayhew isn't. What I would do against this team is I would recommend accounting for both of them. And maybe with this play. This play up the middle is actually weak to DB2. So I wouldn't use it. But I would maybe like this. But I would definitely keep it in the back of our mind that he has 2 great defensive backs. Last but not least is Minnesota. And Minnesota does have Carl Lee. But, honestly, they have Joey Browner. And I wouldn't really worry too much about designing plays for Carl Lee when Joey Browner's sitting around. Onto the linebackers. Okay, so the Bills have the linebackers, LB4, there's the LB4 lurch. That's the first thing to go over. And the teams I listed can all do it pretty good, and you need to avoid up the middle plays. This isn't an up the middle play. This play, to a degree, although it's a dumb play and you should never use it, but really this up the middle run may not work. This one may not work. And this one. Even this one might be victimized by a lurch if you're not careful. So that's the first thing to keep in mind is what not to do against these teams. And that's Buffalo, San Fran, Houston, Denver, and the Rams. Also, if the Eagles or Giants condition up, then all of a sudden they start doing it as well. Next, you go, okay, you can take the sweep against them. Also, the sweep is it's like the same theory. The sweep, these plays are less effective than the sweep because they can just out tap their blocker and then contain you, but they're still options. They're just not as great as the cornerback. This is another play as well. This play really isn't as great because I can just out tap my blocker then come down on you. Same with LB1 isn't as weak to this play because I can just out tap the blocker and then I can contain the play after. And if you run the other play, the play's slow, so I still might contain you. So basically, there's a little bit of a difference for LB4. And the other thing too is you got to keep in mind for the Rams, it's the same kind of theory. With the Rams, I go up against them, and Kevin Green's really their only great defensive player. I could just take him out of the game, force you to use Bobby Humphrey or Vince Newsom the whole game. We're slower. Same with Denver. It's the same thing. Great player, but hard to use when you have Simon Fletcher's pretty good, but you take him out, kind of force him to use Atwater and Dennis Smith most of the game. Moving on. San Francisco's loaded with defensive options. With them, I would be more worried about not doing plays to make it easy on Charles Haley, and I would be more worried about Waymer and Lott. Houston's so interesting because they got Ray Childress, Richard Johnson. So you got to account for both of them. And once again, this is another time where if you go against Houston, you got to account for both players. Just account for both players. Like, I would consider doing this. And I would be more worried about the defensive back against Houston. Finally, going up against the Bills. The Bills have a balanced defense. There's no one who's really great on the Bills. Like Darryl Talley is good, is fast, and he's good in pass coverage. So you would consider accounting for him just in case. But then again, Bruce Smith is on the team, and the Bills. The other thing is their passing game is great, so people may just use the safeties anyways. A lot of times with the Bills and Houston and San Francisco, you just don't want to worry too much about linebackers because the passing games of these teams are so great. You're just going to be safeties anyways. Whereas Denver and the Rams, it's something where you might design a playbook. And that's one thing to keep in mind on all of this, is when we design these running plays, it also depends on how good the team is at passing the ball. Like, if your team's really good at passing the ball, I mean, I'm less concerned about linebackers and more concerned about defensive backs. Same thing when I'm going up against them. I may not even have to worry too much about Thurman Thomas because I might be more worried about Jim Kelly and stopping him than I am Thurman Thomas. Anyways, that's just some of my ideals for you to design some playbooks based out of the defenders you're seeing. Just keep in mind that in a lot of these situations, there's another defender to account for, so you don't want to overload too much and leave yourself open to the other defender, because there's never really any guarantee that the player you're going up against plans to use the best defensive player every time. He might use the second best guy to throw you off. Anyways, thanks, guys. I'm going to have more videos here on the RSG channel and on Tecmo 101. Stay tuned.